The world to come will be different from our expectations. The arc of human history informs the trajectory of our future. We need to know who we are and how we got here. The ecology, biology, and physics. To know which paths remain open to us and which lead to dead ends. 4.5 billion years ago, stardust coalesced to form a planet. 1 billion years later, simple life emerged. By 500 million years ago, a profusion of life had exploded on our blue-green planet. Fast forward to 66 million years ago, and dinosaurs were taken out by our planet's most recent mass extinction. And small shrew-like survivors continued an evolutionary line that would eventually become us. Of all our hominid ancestors, one species would ultimately remain, Homo sapiens, a creature variously curious, creative, kind, cruel, cooperative, competitive, combative, and clever. When Earth's climate warmed and stabilized around 10,000 years ago, Homo sapiens tribes who pivoted en masse to agriculture and pastoralism out-reproduced their hunter-gatherer cousins. Unbeknownst to them, and to most of us, this was a planet-changing event. Sustained by new agricultural surplus, these early humans slowly spread out around the globe, expanding trade and technology. For thousands of years, the average annual growth in the size of the human economy would be unnoticeable from one generation to the next. By the 16th century, however, more complex social organization and advanced navigational technology kick-started a unique period in human history. Yet even with these advances, human cultures remained powered by biomass and the muscles of humans and our draft animals, limiting growth. Until, in the early 19th century, 10,000 years after the agricultural revolution, humans discovered how to extract fossil energy and materials from under Earth's surface to boost their economies. This new discovery of geologically stored sunlight in the form of coal, oil, and gas changed everything. For the first time, human and animal labor played second fiddle to the power of these new energy sources. When combined with a machine, a gallon of gasoline could output the same work in a few minutes as a person laboring for an entire month. We increasingly replaced manual human tasks with machines at a tiny fraction of the cost. The result? Higher profits, higher wages, and cheaper goods. Sudden access to this bank account of stored carbon energy turbocharged our populations, access to goods, services, and technology, and quadrupled our economic growth rate. Yet humanity's great acceleration was still ahead. In the latter half of the 20th century, with this new power source and an upgrade from coal to higher quality liquid oil, the human economy's average growth rate doubled yet again, to now over 30 times what it had averaged during the last few thousand years. Compared to a global labor force of around 5 billion real humans, the machines and work powered by access to buried carbon energy added the equivalent power of 500 billion human workers. Access to these fossil energies and materials brought billions more humans into existence and brought billions more out of poverty, and led to the creation of new myths, institutions, and expectations. Our ancestors' lives were tightly linked to the natural flows of the earth, the sun, the rain, and the soil. But during this moonshot of growth and consumption, our fundamental tether to nature was first neglected and then forgotten. The main inputs to our economies were now mostly free. We merely had to pay for the cost of their extraction, not the cost of their creation, their true worth, nor their pollution. To our ancestors, the benefits from carbon energy would have appeared indistinguishable from magic. And instead of appreciating this giant one-time windfall, we developed stories that our newfound wealth and progress had emerged purely from human ingenuity. We had become energy blind. Global economic growth will never meaningfully decouple from energy consumption. It cannot, because the world's GDP, by definition, has always been a proxy for how much energy we burn. If we were to grow the global economy at 3% a year, as most governments and institutions expect, we would use as much energy and materials in the next 30 years as we have in the past 10,000. Stock markets are poor guideposts for prosperity when inflated by government and central bank support. All the cash, stocks, bonds, and pension funds in the world will need energy and materials to be cashed out and turned into real wealth. Creativity and innovation will be central to human futures. But modern technology requires huge amounts of energy to build and to operate. As long as GDP is our goal, efficiency gains from new technology will serve the superorganism. Transitioning from fossil hydrocarbon to rebuildable energy won't change this dynamic. Ultimately, in addition to using different energy, we'll need to use energy differently. Seeing our future through a systems lens changes everything. We have spent the last century harnessing enormous amounts of fossil energy to build a world of complexity like nothing seen before. In the coming century, humanity will experience a great simplification. There will always be energy on Earth as long as the sun burns. But the amount of surplus energy available to human societies will soon be diminishing. As the extraction of geologically stored energy becomes more difficult, everything we're used to in society will become more costly or less available. We are not planning for this because it's never happened before. The onset of the Great Simplification will be financial and economic turbulence, followed by contraction. When we can no longer grow fast enough to maintain all the increased financial claims, economies will recede to a scale that can again be supported by physical flows without credit. Complex global supply chains, the related high consumption lifestyles, and many of the conveniences and freedoms we take for granted in this era of abundant energy surplus will diminish. The ensuing simplification will be among the most significant events ever experienced by our species. Those who look through a systems lens can serve as early visionaries of a simpler life, with new ways of relating to technology, to consumption, to each other, and to Earth's ecosystems. There are many pathways wending through a great simplification. Some are wise, humane, and even preferable to what we have now. Some are so dark as to be nearly unthinkable. Yet it is precisely thinking about these pathways and actively choosing among them which offers the only realistic hope for a long and meaningful human future. Nature has gifted us with a productive and beautiful home. the ability to understand how we got here, and the creativity to imagine which paths are possible. The future need not be dystopian, but cleverness alone will no longer suffice for the next leg of our journey. We will need imagination, foresight, empathy, and above all, wisdom to navigate the path to the future that is arriving. The Great Simplification.